he punched me in the face days before, and I didn't do anything. I told him we're gonna fight, blah blah blah, but I didn't do anything about it. Forever, that stuck with me. That drove me crazy.
Please welcome to the cage, Chris Brennan!
If you give yourself no options of going back, you're going to find a way. Burn the fucking boats, exactly.
Yeah. And if you look at the stats for the UFC champions, it is wrestling way up here, jiu-jitsu up here, everything else is way down here.
These guys are just on a completely different level.
Dagestani wrestlers that are very good. Carries a little bit something different.
As far as style goes and champions go,
Coach, does being born in Compton automatically get you to be a fighter? Is that from the streets? Is that where it comes from? Like you just came out of Compton, were born hard?
No, I don't think so. To be honest, I was born in Compton and I grew up a lot in Huntington Beach, and my grandparents and my biological dad lived in Compton. My cousins lived in Compton. So I was constantly back and forth between Huntington Beach and Compton. And there's like a drastic difference between the two. You know, Compton was black and Mexican. Huntington Beach was a bunch of skaters, skinheads, and like the complete opposite, you know, surfers. And so, but I fought more in Huntington Beach and later, you know, as a teenager than I did as a kid. You know, I was an okay kid. I was a terrible teenager.
Yeah, I saw something about that. Can you talk about that story? I guess we'll just get right into it, man. Can you talk about how you got into MMA? Because I saw this clip, right? It was fascinating that you had like $1,000 worth of cocaine in your pocket. And then someone, you know, were like something about wrestling, right?
Yeah. So I did, that didn't even get me started in MMA. It wasn't even around yet. It got me started lifting weights. So from 14 to 16, I did coke every day. Every day. I was robbing houses, stealing cars. I was crazy. You know, at 14 years old.
I'm telling you, it's the Compton, man.
When my son Lucas turned 14, I literally cried because I was like, I cannot imagine him doing the things I did at that age. He was such a kid, you know? But then I was walking to a girl's house, had an ounce of coke in my pocket. And there was back in the day, 24 used to be called Family Fitness. And I was walking by a Family Fitness, and there was like a half door, and the top was open. The top part of the door was open. And I just kind of leaned in and looked, and there was a bunch of guys lifting weights. And there was this ripped younger kid, but seemed a lot older than me at the time just because I was a fuck up. And I was watching him for a second. Then he comes over to the door and hey, what's up? You know, and talked to me for like 3 minutes, told me he was a wrestler. And he was ripped. And I was like, man, he looked good, you know? And I left the 2 or 3 minute conversation, kept walking towards the girl's house, and then I threw the entire ounce of coke in the gutter. Never did another drug again. Like that was the last time I did coke. That was the last time I did anything. And I got a membership at that gym the next day and started lifting weights. And then I went the opposite. I was 120 pounds, and I went from 120 pounds to 220 pounds in 2 years.
220?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, hold on. 120 pounds to 220 pounds.
Yeah. Not naturally. I was bodybuilding. I was competing in bodybuilding and super jacked.
Was that what made you make that switch? Because I often talk about in this podcast that just kind of like that. I started drinking at the age of, I think it was a little bit older at 16, that I just never stopped since. Like, you know, my dad was an alcoholic. What made you flip that switch of just, did you cold turkey it? That thing?
That was the
I mean,
last
you did
time.
it every day, man.
I didn't even do what I had left. I just threw it away and never did it again. To be honest, it was actually a time at 18 or 19 that I sold it for a little bit and didn't touch it. Still didn't touch it.
You didn't,
no.
Don't get high on your own supply.
Yeah,
right?
and I never did it again. And that's why, you know, I know there's people have addictions and whatnot. I don't want to slight anyone's addictions, but I literally just like that after every single day for 3 years. I don't know if it's because I was so young or just really motivated and determined. You know, I dropped out of school freshman year in high school, didn't go back to school, and then just, you know, was a hustler from that point on, like legal hustler. I was grinding to make it.
Now, before you got into your MMA career, were you all in on jiu-jitsu because of your resume over here? I mean, you got like 2014, 2013 IBJJF Nogi. You were the first, I believe, Nogi American to be an instructor. Is that correct?
I was just the first American to take off the gi and be 100% Nogi. I opened the first Nogi jiu-jitsu gym in the United States, and I started Nogi, the clothing company. Like, I was all about it. And I got blackballed from the Brazilians for quite a while. But no, when I started jiu-jitsu, I was bouncing at a bar with a couple guys that fought in the UFC as well. The first UFC was on TV, and I started training the next day. I started training the day after UFC 1, and ended up not being able to get into the UFC because of weight classes for a couple years. I got in it in 98 and UFC 16 in the lightweight tournament, and fought for the belt that night, in the finals of the tournament. But I started jiu-jitsu because I saw Hoist fighting that night. I saw Hoist fight in UFC 1, started jiu-jitsu, started boxing and training, but I fell in love with jiu-jitsu then. And I started fighting a year and a half later. I think 95 was probably my first fight.
Like fighting in MMA.
94. Yeah.
Yeah. And what's going on, guys? If you're enjoying this podcast, please don't forget to like the videos and subscribe to the channel. Only if you're getting value out of it on YouTube, and also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to leave a rating and follow. And also, I also write a blog newsletter from what I learned from my incredible guests that I have on. So sign up for the email list and get updates on the podcast. Thank you for your love and support. Now back to the show.
HB, there was no MMA yet.
Yeah. I also saw that one where you said you were boxing. Did you do boxing first or MMA? You were boxing. You got fucked up in like 16 seconds and then you broke your nose. Or
I
something
didn't even. I wasn't even in boxing. That was my first day of going to a gym, and it's called South Coast Martial Arts in Costa Mesa, California. And I walked in, and like the jackasses these days, but I was serious. I said, I want to fight in the UFC. And they said, okay, cool, funny, come on. And they put some boxing gloves on me and let me spar this kid, Seneca, who went on to be a junior world champ.
How fitting.
And literally within 15 seconds, I'm like this, and my nose is everywhere. And I was like, guys, I didn't come in here cocky saying I should be in the UFC. My goal is to get to the UFC. I wanted to train and learn. But they, people get greenlit all the time. People get, they wanted to prove a point with me, and they did. But it didn't deter me at all. I was there the next day and continued to train. And there was a jiu-jitsu guy teaching jiu-jitsu there. And so I just started training both things.
What made him do that though? I mean, was it like just like did you have like a cocky swagger about you when you walked in? You were like, hey guys, like
I don't think so, because I've never been cocky in the sport. You know what I mean? Like, I've always respected the sport from day one. And I wasn't a shit talker to my opponents unless they were a shit talker to me. And then I'd banter with them. But I never really started it because in the end, you still have to get in the cage and fight them.
Yeah.
And I was never an overly confident fighter. And so even today, like, if my kids are fighting and someone's talking shit or their opponent's talking shit, I'll go back and forth about anything other than telling them my kid's going to whoop their ass, because I'm never going to put that pressure on them. And I didn't want it on me either. So I don't really, I don't think I went in there arrogant. I just went in there and said, I wanted to fight in the UFC. Like, that was my goal. And I knew I was tough. I knew I'd been in far too many street fights, and I just didn't know technically how to fight, especially after watching Hoist fight that night. I was like, well, sign me up for that.
Yeah. Okay. So speaking of which, so you say that, you got into all these street fights. Foster? 19 different homes, is it?
Yeah, but no, I was not. So
okay, yeah. Can you tell me about that story? Because all right, I'm gonna tell you why I asked this, Coach. Because at first, right, in this podcast, I started asking people that fight or people that's coached, why are you in this game, man? What kind of fucked up trauma did you go through as a kid? I mean, look, fighting is primitive, and I completely get that. It's back in our ancestral days.
Yeah.
But then somewhere along the way, there was laws. And then, the first reaction that you have is a flinch, right? Like you're
Right.
flinching. But nowadays, man, fighting is like to 99, actually less like 0.11, only like, it's weird to 99% of people, right? It's like, why would you do that? That's not in the training room, obviously. What were some of your, I guess, quote unquote traumas as a kid? Were you like a really bad kid, or were you a bully? Were you like a really
No, I was never a bully. I was tiny, bro. I was, like I said, I was at
Did you get picked
14,
on?
15 years old. I was 120 pounds, right? So I was not big. I got picked on a couple of times, not bad ever. I had an older brother that was a badass, and he would, he would handle it. But like, I got in a fight. I was in 8th grade, I think, and got in a fight at a park, and my dad and brother came to watch. And my English teacher rolled up into the park and watched. Like there was 100 people there, for me to fight this other kid that he punched me in the face days before, and I didn't do anything. I told him we're gonna fight, blah blah blah, but I didn't do anything about it. Forever, that stuck with me. That drove me crazy.
Oh.
And now you bump me in the shoulder, we're fighting.
Yeah.
But at that time, he hit me, and I didn't do anything about it. And my friends were like, "What? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do?" And so we scheduled it to fight on Friday at the park. And at the park, we fought on Friday, and I won. And I just got in a lot of fights. And then later on, I got in more fights, as embarrassing as it is, after learning jiu-jitsu, because me, Mark Lehman, Mauricio Zingano, who was Kat's husband who passed away, Henry Akins, Matt Akins, his little brother, and this kid, Ryan Parker, we would go to this bar all the time, and we never started fights, but we would always get in fights. And like, if someone would kind of try to start shit with one of us or bully one of us, just like that, we were fighting.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we probably got in 60 fights, and we always had on the Gracie Academy shirt. And like Monday we'd be in class at the Gracie Academy, and on the loudspeaker, Chris Brennan, Mark Lehman, Mauricio Zingano come to my office from Oregon. I was just like, oh God, we're in trouble again. But yeah, we got in a lot of fights, because at the time, bro, there was not a lot of blue belts in the United States, when I had my blue belt. And so jiu-jitsu was still magic. It was so crazy how good it worked. And I was so confident at that point. The only thing that scared me in my life was somebody that had better jiu-jitsu than me, So
yeah, right. Did you have any striking back then too? Or was it kind of like,
at that point in time, I had been training, and I had been boxing and kickboxing. Okay. I had a few fights already, but like, I was always a mean fight. Like, for example, I'm watching one of those guys I named fight somebody, and I'm just kind of glancing around, and I get tackled from the side. And then this guy technically starts to pass my guard. Well, I grabbed him by the ears, dude. I bit a chunk out of the top of his head. Ooh. Because I was just like, and
what's going on, guys? Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you're enjoying the show so far. I hope that you're getting a lot of value out of it. Just a quick announcement. I started a YouTube and Patreon membership for you Speakeasy Squad listeners out there. So for YouTube, just click down below to join. And also for Patreon, I'll post a link down below so that you could join for you Spotify and Apple podcast listeners out there. What you get is behind the scene footage and early access to podcasts, some pictures, photos, and whatever behind the scenes shoots that we do. So click the links down below, and all the proceeds, actually all of it, goes into this podcast. So to enhance productions, to get bigger guests on, all of it. So thank you for your love and support. And now back to the show.
I mean, that's real fighting, man.
Yeah,
that's
man.
Real fighting.
Guy was huge. He was on top of me, and he looked like he knew what he was doing. And the only thing I worried about it back then was somebody that knew what they were doing. A street fighter, I didn't care about, So, that happened. But yeah, there was just a lot of fights. But I did grow up, later as a teen and stuff, fighting a lot, and then just continued. Wherever I lived, I found a way to fight.
So what's up with the 19 different homes? How does that come about?
My parents were a little shaky, and I had 4 dads by the time I was 7. Adopted dad, same mom. But then we were constantly moving. And I lived, it was 18 or 19 houses in 17 years. I went to 9 schools in 9 years of school. You know, that's why I kind of probably, you know, one of the reasons I dropped out in 9th grade, I was just over school. I had not had enough credits. I cheated in 8th grade on the Constitution just to get to 9th grade. You know, the test I had to take to get to 9th grade. And then in 9th grade, halfway through the year, I didn't have the credits to go on to 10th grade. So I was gonna have to redo 9th grade. And I was surfing at the time, and my mom would drop me off at school. And by the time she got home, my books were on the front porch and my board was gone. And I was at the beach surfing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So you were out of the house by what, 9th grade? 10th grade?
No, and this is where, you know, my parents came home and were like, you know, you need to go. I told them I was not going back to school. And they said to me, fine, then you're going to work with your dad. And I started working construction. But I was 14, almost 15 years old. And like, if my kid came to me like, shut your mouth, you're going to school. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, right.
And it didn't happen. You know, I don't feel like it was pushed hard enough for me to go to school.
Yeah.
But looking back now, I'm glad that I didn't, because I was just having this conversation before I got here. I like pressure. You know, I like to be put under pressure. And I feel like that made me have to really figure out what I wanted to do. And I've never faltered since then. When I decided I was going to start training jiu-jitsu and start fighting, that was what I was going to do. And that was the one way I was going to make it. And then 8, 9 years into that was the only way I was going to be able to make it, you know? So I just tripled down on everything and went in and opened my gym. I opened my gym as a blue belt, you know, and was teaching and fighting from that point forward.
I love that you said that about, you know, because if you give yourself no options of going back, you're going to find a way. Burn the fucking boats. Exactly.
Yeah.
Your brain will automatically find a way. If you're, you know, about to go broke, I can't tell anyone how they're going to make their money, but they're going to make their money regardless if they like rob someone or something. You know, I mean, obviously we don't want it to go that far, but
sure,
they're going to find a way. And the best thing I heard was like, I don't have a plan B because it's always plan A, you know, and then it's just figuring it out from there. Yeah. And we have, right? Like, I mean, we've been fine.
For sure.
Yeah.
I went to a Tony Robbins seminar here in Vegas a long time ago, and he said that, and right after he said, because those people who are either going to die or succeed tend to succeed. And that's fucking, I was like, whoa.
That gives me goosebumps, man.
For sure.
Yeah. So many of those stories like that go to Tony Robbins is like the OG.
Oh yeah.
It's just many people.
I spent $10,000 on a 5-day seminar.
I was going to say, man, how much do those cost?
It was $10,000.
Even back then.
Yeah, it was 2016. It wasn't that long.
Okay.
But it was a 5-day seminar from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And bro, he didn't leave the stage to pee. Like, he was on stage for 12 hours hammering. And I was just like mind blown the whole time. And then he would leave at 9 and he'd have another person come on until 11, you know, and then we'd be back the next morning. And just, I have books and books and books full of notes and stuff. And it really helped my business. You know, it was good stuff for business.
Yeah, absolutely. That neuro-linguistic programming is no joke,
right?
You know? Yeah, he's up. I mean, he's very, very energetic. Either that or you gave him that $1,000 worth of cocaine. He's just
right.
Yeah, but so, you know, from the story that you told me growing up, what have you implemented in your kids now that you realize, you know, back then? Hindsight's always 20/20. What's the biggest lesson that you instill in them?
Don't be like that.
Yeah. I mean, it made you hard though. Like
it did. It did. No question. And my kids came up very different than me. You know, I did not want them to come up like I did. So at the same time, as much as it was awesome that they didn't have to come up the way I did, they chose to fight. Right. So now there's these 2 kids that are fighting that never got in a street fight before. You know, they're just really fucking good at the sport, you know, and they started training when they were 10 and 11 years old.
That's insane, man.
And we would go to jiu-jitsu tournaments and kids would be like, mom, there's the Brennan bros. You know, there's the Brennan brothers, you know, or a parent would be like, boys, there's a Brennan Bros. Like we'd walk into tournaments and kids would just be like, fuck, like if they were in their bracket, you know,
Jeez,
and they won a lot, you know, like they won a lot of matches, you know, and then got into high school and started wrestling. And then through Tyler's or Lucas's, after his junior year, he was getting offers to wrestle, you know, and it was like, okay, do you want to wrestle? Do you want to compete in jiu-jitsu at a high level, or do you want to fight? And he said, I want to fight. And I said, really? I said, okay. I said, you want to fight? Let's fight. Let's get a fight for you right now.
What do you think made him made that decision? Why is it in the fight? Is it just blood, or is it just...
Yeah, I think so. And he had trained with my fighters, had trained with me a lot. Me and him had been, you know, I was his number one training partner for a long time. And he decided that. And I said, okay, well, that's not for everyone. So let's get you a fight right now and figure it out.
Yeah.
And at 17, a week before his senior year started, he fought a 26-year-old dude and rear naked choked him in the third round. And the promoter was like, hey, do you want another teen? I said, no, dude, give me a fucking guy with a beard and a family that works. I want a grown ass man. And Luke choked him in the third round, and then fought again the week before his senior year ended, and then fought one more time out here in Vegas at Tough Enough for his last amateur fight. And then Bellator signed him and he fought 5 weeks later.
Sheesh.
But
yeah,
then Tyler wasn't interested in it. You know, he was killing it, like super special jiu-jitsu. He had a couple 100 match win streaks against some very good guys. And then went into college wrestling, went into high school wrestling, then into college wrestling. And like probably halfway through college, you know, he's doing very well, manhandling people. And Lucas is putting away a few $100,000.
Oh,
and,
really?
And Tyler's like, yeah, I'll do it.
I'll do it.
You know? And then he's such a high level athlete and mind. Instead of going from Little Rock where he was wrestling back home to my house and training with my guys, you know, in a room that he's better than, unfortunately, he's better than, you know, all the guys in that room. And size wise, he flew straight here and came straight to Syndicate. So his first days basically in MMA training were at Syndicate.
Really?
And he had killers on day one and was submitting him on the ground and taking him down and submitting him. And then it was like, yeah, you know, clearly he's made for this. And he's very tough, you know, and they've both been, Lucas was 9-0 in Bellator, but 8-0 going into his 9th fight. He had been hit 4 times. That's it.
That's it?
Yeah.
Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
Both.
Right,
Again,
because
being raised like he's been raised is a good thing and a bad thing, right? Being raised like I've been raised was a good thing and a bad thing.
Yeah.
And so for him, was it good that he was able to get through 8 fights with 4 punches, no brain damage?
I mean, that's great.
That's
Yeah,
fantastic.
I mean, yeah.
Had he been put in the fire yet? No. But I knew just from training that he was a dog. And I knew he was, one day I was going to have to watch him get beat physically and take it because he's not a quitter. And that fight, he fights Weber Almeida, one of Lyoto Machida's guys, very good and good karate, long stance, you know, short, stocky guy, but plays a real long game.
Bladed, really bladed. Yep.
And 2.5 rounds into the fight, he's down 2.5 rounds. You know, been calf kicked 20 times, hard, can barely stand on the leg, and he's just taking it. And then 90 seconds left in the 3rd round, he knocks him out. Lucas knocks him out with a knee.
Dude.
And I'm just like, oh my God. You know, and then walking back to the back, I was like, hey, let's have the conversation that I wanted to have if you ever lost right now.
Right.
You know, let's have that conversation now because we stole that. You know, we got the win. Awesome. But let's take it as a loss. You know, at least on paper it's a win, but let's take it as you don't get that many learning lessons off of a victory. Usually it's off of a loss.
Absolutely.
You know, and he was able to be a dog to the end and knock him out. But I was like, let's go back now and you know, fix some things.
It's a good mindset to have, but can you really emulate that when you're high on a win with like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like,
I
you
didn't
gotta
mean
really
that.
like
I
feel
just-
the loss.
I just wanted to be able to go back and correct things that I had seen coming already. And unfortunately, it trickled into his next 2 fights, you know, and he lost 2 decisions after that. And a lot of it was Bellator. Our goal was to fight in Bellator on the AJ McKee route, get to the title, and then hopefully switch to the UFC at the top, you know, so he can get paid to come to the UFC.
Yes.
And looking back now that everyone's coming over to the UFC, not doing so hot, I'm glad we got a couple fights outside. But he Bellator went up for sale, you know, and we're just like, oh man. And that just kind of took the wind out of his sails. And then Tyler was supposed to come back from college the year before and start training and decided to stay another year. So Lucas just lost all motivation. Going into the Weber fight, I knew he was already lacking motivation and training so-so. Beat him, but then his next two, you know, was just kind of, I don't think he didn't love the sport. He literally quit after I don't know, I think it was the first one. He told me he didn't want to do it again.
Tyler?
Lucas.
Oh, Lucas.
Yeah.
I mean,
he just said he didn't want to do it again, didn't love it. He's been doing it since he's 11. He's burnt out.
Interesting.
And so I had him take some time. I said, take some time, you know, don't come in. And he kept coming in to watch practice. I said, what are you doing? He said, I want to miss it. I said, you're not going to fucking miss it sitting here watching it.
Yeah.
You know, I said, people, you do that when you're injured. I said, go find something to do it. And don't come back to fight just because you don't have anything else to do, because we haven't done anything else. You have a lot of money put aside. You can do anything you want. We can fucking do anything you want. So just take your time, go do something else and stay away from it for a little bit. And so he did. A month he didn't come in the gym. And then he gradually started coming back into coach jiu-jitsu. He runs the wrestling program there, all the high school wrestlers. So he kept teaching that at night, but then, you know, gradually he came back in. Then he said he wanted to fight. And then he fought, lost a split decision. And the next day he said he wanted to fight. And I was like, okay, he's got it back. And, you know, he just needed a break, a mental break more than anything. And it's a fucking hard sport, man. Mm-hmm. And I think especially for people like him, Tyler, take other kids that weren't fighters growing up. They're good at the sport. They're good strikers, good jiu-jitsu, good wrestling, and putting it all together. But there's so much, like you're asking, what goes on, what went on in my head to make me want to be a fighter? What was fucked up? You know, they didn't have any. You know, they didn't have any of the trauma like that. And there's plenty of people. I don't know if GSP had trauma like that. He was just a fucking stud in the sport.
Yeah.
You know, there are people that do it, that didn't go through it as a kid, the trauma, but it's harder, I think. Mm-hmm. I think it's a little bit harder at that point to do that, to do this sport, not having that, you know, to look back on.
Well, when you talk about, like, you know, especially the old school guys like yourself and, you know, Frank Mir and the rest of those guys, it's like grit, toughness, right? You see these guys and just, I mean, in the very first UFC, it was just like, dude, these guys look like they came out of like WWE and just start pounding each other, right? When the sport was new. Nowadays, which is going to be my next question relating to this, is that it's such a skill sport. Not that it wasn't back then, but you had to have a lot of grit back then. Like, look at Chuck Liddell. He looks like a bar fucking fighter, right? And then you just wail on people. But now it's just the sport has evolved so much. It's so technical.
Oh, yeah.
And again, not that it wasn't back then, but then the skill levels, you know, are just going up. So I guess what my question is, what do you think is the biggest difference? This is kind of like a old school Michael Jordan compared to like a Steph Curry nowadays, right? It's kind of like, which one's better, arguably, Jordan. You know, back in the day. Well, you know, I mean,
Jordan.
I agree.
But I understand
I'm 40,
saying.
you know,
I understand what you're saying.
But then I know science has changed, right? Oh, yeah. They got the PI, they have a lot more video and information to feed off of. Personally, for you, since you do have young sons that are in a high level, what do you see between when you fought and between them, the biggest, like, I guess, evolution of the sport, skill-wise?
Oh, the skill is just, I mean, you had to learn from.
And how do you adapt to that? You know, being like, are you constantly watching tape?
And I didn't stop learning. Even as a jiu-jitsu coach, I didn't stop learning. I was constantly learning, you know, watching film of other fighters, things like that. But the difference is, like, you see now there's higher level athletes doing the sport, coming from other sports, you know, football players.
Rugby,
you know, Volkanovski, right, was a rugby player. Like, you just see guys that were already high level athletes and something else coming over to do it and being successful. And we have, you know, for example, at my house in Texas or our condo out here, we've got a hot tub. We've got a cold plunge. We've got a sauna. We've got leg compression. We've got, red light therapy, PEMF mats. We have everything for recovery here and there. And back then, bro, I didn't have shit.
Yeah.
But we, for whatever reason, we got hurt less. Like, I feel like we trained harder. We sparred harder. There was no such thing as puffies back then. We sparred in MMA gloves, and my brain's fine, which is weird, right? Like, but there are people whose aren't, that fought. I fought 36 times, and there are people with less fights that are worse off than me. There are people with more fights that are, that did okay. But I think the difference is, it's hard to say what the difference is, because I feel like we trained and fought more often. There was a year I fought like 8 times, 7 times, 8 times.
Yeah.
And I never had any injuries. I was sore, but I never had any injuries. I didn't have any surgeries until after I retired, and I tore my shoulders doing jiu-jitsu tournaments, but I never had any problems bad during a long career. I fought 18 years, I think. And so it's different. I think it's the food, the nutrition, the rest.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there's a lot of things that aren't the same that people are putting in their bodies now that are, the male testosterone level is like a half or a quarter of what it used to be.
Right.
Right. And so I think there's a lot of things that play into it, but I don't know, the longevity should be longer now than it was because of all the things that we have to use. But I don't know that it really is at this point.
Well, like you said, and a lot of other people say this, is that like George St. Pierre, right? He says that people leave their careers at the gym.
Yeah.
That might be a part of it, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, you go into, say, championship rounds, 5-minute 5 rounds. I mean, you can only do so much, but you're at the gym sparring constantly. And I don't know can you talk about like your methods of how frequently you sparred? And relating to that, do you think that, did you get hit a lot? Or because I just have this vision in my head that since you were, and correct me if I'm wrong, like your main base was grappling. Do you think that helped you a lot because you'd be more in close contact? Right?
Sure. And I had a really good, if I was on bottom, I had a really good Hoist Gracie guard. Like, you weren't beating me up if you were on top of me.
What's a Hoist Gracie guard?
He just had such good defense on bottom, not getting beat up if he was on bottom. He stayed under Dan Severn for like 17 minutes and maybe got a little knot, so I was able to tie people up and attack from bottom and not get beat up real bad. So I did not take very much damage. But as far as leaving it in the gym, we did do that. You know what I mean? We fought a couple times a week in small gloves in practice. So I don't know. It's hard to say because now I take care of the boys. We spar once a week. We'll do flow sparring here on Thursdays. They spar again on Saturday. We don't go back in again and spar on Saturdays. We take all of the omegas and all the vitamins for your brain and for your head after sparring, take care of it. And just, stay on top of everything. Don't get any, there's been a couple where they've got into some heaters, but
some dog fights.
Yeah. But for the most part, they're not. And they are both heavy grapplers, Yeah. I think it's important that you don't do that. You don't leave it in the gym, but then there's, look at Merab, Merab spars 3 days a week. 7-8 rounds at a time. I watch him run through a different guy every 2 rounds for 6 rounds and then come out into the room and go into regular sparring.
Yeah.
And he's not getting beat up. He's not getting hit, but he spars a lot. So by the time fight day comes, he does 5 rounds in the morning at Syndicate before the fight. Then backstage does another 5 rounds with Aljo before the walkout. And he's fighting these guys.
Yes.
So I think there's always a good and a bad side to everything. I think there probably isn't a more comfortable guy getting in the cage when it comes time to get in the cage than Rob, because he's done that.
That's like an outlier though, right?
Oh, for sure.
That's a crazy.
For sure. He's
there's the top and then there's the top.
Right.
Like, there's levels.
My kids are confident. They know they're good, and they see him. They're like, dude, he's such a freak. He's such a freak. You have to respect him. You have to.
Yeah.
There's no question.
He's also, from the people that I've talked to, he's just also a very smart fighter.
Yeah.
He doesn't get enough credit for that.
Yeah.
Even with his striking too, right? He's known as like a grappler. He's a very smart striker too.
Yeah.
From what I heard.
And they had me come in one night and go over some leg stuff with him. before the Sandhagen fight.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going over it and drilling it, and Lucas is doing it on him. And then I looked at John because Merab was kind of like this, and he goes, he's listening. I said, okay, I'm just, making sure I'm not boring him. And he goes, he's listening. Trust me, he's downloading it all.
Yep.
Next day in the cage live, he hits it. He hits it 3 times what I was showing him. And I'm just like, damn, he was paying attention. Like he was really paying attention.
Yeah, that is crazy.
Yeah.
What makes, for you, with all your experience, kind of a general question, but how do you know if someone's going to make it? Like, say, like someone like Lucas, right? The answer may be like, a course of everything. What's the most important trait? Is it grit, toughness, talent, genetics, endurance? Like what when you see someone, right? And besides maybe Lucas, and then you're like, oh, this kid's going to be special.
Right.
What is it, man?
I mean, a lot of times, I guess
sauce.
It's talent. You can see them. Fortunately for us, we get to see them in the room with all the other guys that are trying to make it. So when someone stands out already, just in there, then you kind of start paying attention to them and see what it is. Some guys have an elite skill. Some guys have crazy athleticism. Some guys take a beating and just keep coming.
Yeah.
So they're mentally tough. And then once in a while you'll get someone that is a combination of that, and that's the guy who is going to be, they say the hard work beats talent when talent won't work.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get a talented guy that is working hard, and that is something like, so Lucas has had to bust his ass to be athletic. He was not athletic when we began this at all. And he's become super athletic. Tyler came out that way. He was just athletic when he was born.
Did they play sports when they were growing up? Because there's cross training thing. Because like say if you play football, basketball, there's like hand-eye coordination that you grow up.
No, they played a couple years of soccer when they were very young, and that's it. They went directly into jiu-jitsu and then into wrestling. But Lucas is one of those kids that has put in all of the work, to get here, and he had to. And so there are other guys though that can put in half the work and get there. And there are guys who put in, all of the work and have all the talent. There's guys like John Jones, right? Clearly talented, and would John Jones be better or would he be worse if he didn't drink and do drugs, right? Like some people like, maybe that's why he's so good.
Exactly.
And so you're like, right. So take that away, make him a super fit health freak and does all this. Does it go the same way?
Oh,
does it go better or does it go worse? Right.
Yeah.
So you just never know on some people what the secret sauce is that's making him there. If it's the mental, if it's the for example, John Jones, I thought he lost the Gustafson fight the first time. But after round 3, he had been getting beat up. And I'm like, he's going to quit. And he turned around and came back and he won the last couple rounds. And I was like, okay, I don't like the guy, but I respect him. He's not only good, he's also fucking tough. He's also very tough. So I had to respect that.
So it's like a mix. That's an example of like the mix of talent, genetics. I mean,
and has the dog.
And
he's mean. He's mean. A lot of people aren't mean. He'd choke you unconscious and then drop you in the air and walk away. He kicks. He tries to break your knee when he fights you, like Khalil did. He's a mean guy.
Yeah.
So that's another thing to add on to all the things that he has. Some guys aren't mean, and you got to bring that out of them. Some guys, there's so many variables in this sport because there's so many different arts to train in the sport. And now MMA is its own style, but you still will get a guy who is a specialist at something, and you're fucked if you get in that position with him. If you can't stop one of my kids from taking you down, you're in trouble. If you're stuck on the feet with, pick a great striker. If you're stuck on the feet with him, for example, Daniil, Daniil that won the Ultimate Fighter, trains Syndicate.
That's right.
Super good on the feet. If you're stuck on the feet with that guy, you're fucked.
You're fucked. Yeah. Yeah, dude, that's crazy. So, which leads me to how important is the base? Because I was talking to, Jackson Glass?
Oh yeah.
Fuck, man.
He was an example I was going to use when Merab goes 2 rounds. Lucas went 3. Jackson goes 3. I think Cam has probably gone 3 as well. But Merab puts that pace on him, but there's not very many people that stay in there for 3 rounds straight with him. Jackson's a stud, man. He's going to be a very good fighter.
My God.
Yeah.
I mean, so where I was getting to that was, where I was getting to that was just, Jackson is known for like his striking, right? With ambush Muay Thai, and he pours it on me all the time. I love you, Jackson. He's been on the pod, but damn, I mean, his striking is on a whole nother level. How important do you think it is to have a base? Because even, Johnny Parsons, who was my old Muay Thai coach, he says it personally, on his opinion, he doesn't like it when people go straight into MMA.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to get your opinion on that, because MMA now is a whole sport within itself.
Right.
Instead of like, okay, going boxing first, jiu-jitsu, right? What do you think about that thought process? And even Jackson, when he was on this podcast, he was like, yeah, you could do MMA, but you're not going to get like good at one thing, which he thinks is very, very important.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
I've always thought you should train all 3 arts, striking, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, separate, and then do MMA to combo them. MMA, there are plenty of guys that started doing just MMA and that are good at it. But I'll give you a quick example. MMA now, if you get taken down, is turn your back and get up, right?
Yep.
If you do that to one of my kids, you're going to get your back
Choked
taken.
out.
You're either going to get choked or you're just going to lose the round.
Yes.
Because you're not going to escape, most likely. And that threw away either the fight or the round. So that's when you have to and don't even use my kids. Damian Maia. You're not going to turn your back to Damian Maia because he's going to stay there for the rest of the fight, or you're going to get choked. So there's guys like that are specialists in things where you're just MMA. You've got to make some adjustments and can't just MMA somebody. If you're on the feet with John Jones, for example, or Cyril Gahn, pick a heavyweight that's a really good striker.
That guy's oh my goodness, his striking, especially being that big. Sorry, Coach. Go on.
No, it's fine. The same thing. Like if you're just going to try to kickbox, there's good kickboxers that get knocked out by MMA strikers, right?
Yeah.
And that happens. And because of the feint, the level change, now you're concerned concerned with the takedown, boom, there's a knockout, So there's a lot of mixing up all of the styles together. But I think if you have a spot that is a 99%er for you, that I think it's, the foundation of wrestling, I think is probably the best one.
Yeah.
Because you get to dictate where the fight takes place, right? If you're that high level wrestler, you stop the takedown or you get the takedown, but you get to dictate where the fight's going to take place.
Yeah.
And
or at least have some wrestling takedown. I mean, I would figure, I have mixed feelings about that. Obviously wrestling's now, become more dominant with, the Dagestanis, not even just Dagestanis, but, like high level wrestlers, Bo Nickel. But I mean, shit, look at Alex Pereira, Adesanya, it's like, damn.
Oh,
Alex Pereira came in there like a storm.
Oh, yeah.
And then, he learned his wrestling takedown defense and stuff like that. But
right.
I mean, that's an example of that. And yes, that is like the consensus. It's almost like, okay, yeah, wrestling is just so dominant because you could take the fight anywhere, right? You have control of them. But that striking thing is like, especially when you're on top of the heap, and then it's showcased,
right.
You're a megastar and that's showcased in front of everyone. It's like, really, how are you going to take this guy down? He defends the wrestling and then just hits you with the left hook.
If you look, though, I'm a stat nerd, and if you look at the stats for the UFC champions, it is wrestling way up here, jiu-jitsu up here. Everything else is way down here as far as style goes and champions go. Rear naked chokes. Rear naked chokes are almost 3 times more finishes by rear naked choke than any other submission. I want to say it's close to 300 more rear naked chokes than the next submission, and goes down from there. So is it crazy that turning your back is the way to get up when the number one way to lose the fight is by submission, by rear naked choke? So it's a catch-22. You got to decide what's it worth to you. It is the faster, easier way to get up if the guy doesn't take your back and choke you.
Right.
It's the fastest way to turn, get to your feet and get up, but it's also the fastest way to lose. So you got to pay attention to those things because stats are real, right? And if,
the numbers don't lie.
Yeah, they don't.
Yeah.
And so if I'm looking at that, and another thing, like 80% of the fights end along the fence, whether it's by knockout or by submission. It's along the fence, right? So if you're getting backed up to the fence, unless you're super superior with your back to the fence, you're now in trouble. You're now in a danger zone.
That's why you control the center.
Right.
Right.
And if you start to see that black line below you, you know you're too far back, right? And anytime I'm backing someone up, I want to get their front foot on that black line, and I know they're now along the fence.
Say that again, Coach, for people that are the black line. What would that be?
So here's the octagon.
Yes.
About 5 feet inside the octagon is a circle all the way around the octagon.
Okay.
And once you're past that, you're in the danger zone, right? Okay. You're in the red zone, and so that's where the most of the fights end. You know, that's where the highest majority of the fights end. So we have to know if we're the one putting the guy there, that now we've got him in a great spot. We have to know if we're put there.
Yes.
You know, we're in a bad spot.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so what about this? I've heard not so much anymore, but then, you know, you hear guys like, you know, Khabib talk about it. It's like, how effective now with wrestling is like jiu-jitsu, right? I know you got the rear naked choke, and then something stuck with me all throughout this thing. And look, I don't know. I'm not, you know, like a high level like jiu-jitsu guy, but then how true is it that, like, say, okay, so this is a good example. What I'm really trying to say is that, remember that Amanda Nunes and Cruz fight, right? She didn't even have the hooks and she got the rear naked choke. I think she was just tired. Would you agree with that assessment?
That she was just tired?
Yeah.
Yeah. At that point, I felt like she wanted out of the fight.
Right. So,
which was weird for her, but at that time, that's what I saw.
It was like on to like, we'll get him next time kind of thing. It's like, all right, this is worth it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so where I was going with that is that an MMA coach told me once is that, you know, most of the time people get people in arm bars, not necessarily the rear naked chokes because you have their back and you're in full control. Right. But then it's because you're just like hitting them and then they just give up their arm. Right. Kind of like that Amanda Nunes thing. Would that deem to be true? It's just kind of like, all right, man, like you've just pressed me so much and pressured me so much that.
A good example is in the UFC when someone's getting rear naked choked, you can see their hands sometimes doing this. Yeah. You know, they're
yeah, right.
And then tap. You know, and we'll always make fun of like, oh, he's about to do UFC escape, you know, and he'll just tap and gets out. And they're just waiting to get out of the fight at that point. You know, then you'll see someone that's just fighting the hands and pulling and fighting the hands and almost going out and then peeling, you know, and you're like, okay, this guy doesn't want out. He's fighting for his life to stay in the fight, even though he's in the fire right now, you know. But there's so many guys in the UFC. I'm like, at least fake that you're trying to pull their hands out, bro. Like it looks so bad. They're just like
that. Right.
And then they tap. I was like, what were you doing for the last 10 seconds, bro? You could have been fighting the hands. You could have been trying anything, but all you were doing was waiting for the choke to get tight enough for you to tap.
Right.
Terrible.
Exhaustion makes a coward out of all of us.
It does. 100%.
Right.
100%. Yes.
So would you believe that's the biggest skill in UFC? Like we could talk about technique and base and striking and all that stuff. The machine Merab, not to take away from his skill.
Yeah.
I think the majority of the time when he breaks people, that's with his skill with his takedowns, obviously, and he's taking control of the fight. But dude, that's gotta be watching his fights from the lens of his opponent is exhausting.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, dude, come on. Not even fair.
I'm so glad that we've got to come here and train with him, you know, and actually get rounds with him.
That's wild.
And watch him do his thing. And then we went and we bought tickets and went to the UFC and watched him fight his last one against Corey Sandhagen.
Yeah.
And if you go back to the Umar fight, late in the second round, Merab stuffed a takedown and Umar backed up and went like that. And I looked at Lucas, I said, that's it, bro. Watch. And from that point on, bro, Merab's doing his thing, you know, and it's just wearing on Umar, and Umar just went burp, 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 burp. But you saw him break right then. He was just like, God, he stopped another one. And he just, there is no quit in him, but also like, if you let him win one of the first 2 rounds, you're fucked because he's definitely winning 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah.
You know, so if he wins 1 or 2, you're in trouble. You know, you have a bad night ahead of you.
Blood in the water, man.
Yeah. And he's just, someone would have to stop him to beat him. And, you know, I don't see that. He's already gone through this division.
How do you beat him?
You'd have to stop him. I don't know how. I mean, it'd have to be by knockout or submission, but no one's going to go out there and decision beat him. You know, no one.
Yeah.
So, you know, there are guys like that. Yeah. The pathway is you've got to be probably a specialist at something and be able to implement that against him. It's not easy.
Right.
He's the best for a reason. This guy came up to the title fight and then hung out as the gatekeeper while Aljo was holding the belt until he left. Then Merab jumped in and just continued to recycle through everybody. He's like, I don't think we've had anybody at the top of a division that went through everyone and then started to recycle. And was he on a 14 fight win streak right now? It's crazy. It's crazy.
That is crazy. So moving on, I mean, I got the jiu-jitsu specialist over here, right? Like, coach, I mean, let me read some stats for you guys over here. Okay. So, no, like we said, numbers don't lie. 21 wins. Of those 21 wins, 18 first round submissions, 1 second round submission, 1 KO, and 1 unanimous out of those wins. 95% finish rate. That's to me, that's an outlier. Yeah, and those, yeah, exactly. Like, and you fought at different promotions.
Yeah.
You know, like Pride, King. But anyway, one of the highest in MMA. This kind of is obviously it's a fighting MMA, you know, all around boxing, whatever podcast. But then a lot of people are interested in jiu-jitsu. So we got a live wizard over here that's, after reading that stat, is just wild. Also, I'd like to re-mention that he is the first American Nogi instructor. Before we get into all the stats, BJJ, American Nogi instructor in the US. Just want to make that clear. How come you got blackballed, or not blackballed? I'm sorry.
Kind of black.
Is it blackballed? Okay. By the Brazilians. Can you talk about that a little bit? I know, like, you know, they have a lot of pride, you know, like when, especially with the whole Eddie Bravo thing with the heel hooks. I don't think it was okay to do it at first, right?
Right.
Probably came a long way. But yeah, can you talk a little bit about that? Why you feel like you got blackballed?
For one, I was a blue belt, right?
Okay.
As a blue belt, I opened my gym, a Nogi gym. I took off the gi and didn't want to wear the gi again.
Was this next generation?
Yes.
Okay.
And I mean, it doesn't take, and we can, you know, there's been thousands and thousands of posts forever about gi versus no gi. And I felt like it only takes a little bit of common sense to know that every time I grab your collar, every time I grab your sleeve, every time I grab your pant leg, every time I grab your belt, that is creating a habit of me doing that and using that, right?
Yes.
Now I take off the gi and I don't have those things anymore. So I've been creating habits to do things that I don't have to use when I actually need them.
It's a whole different game, right?
I'm not going to fight in a gi.
Mm-hmm.
So my point, my idea was I need to train exactly how I'm going to fight, right? I still want to learn jiu-jitsu technically, but without the gi. I don't want to do luta livre. I don't want to do submission wrestling. I want the discipline and tightness and everything of jiu-jitsu, but I want to do it without the gi. And so at blue belt, I opened my gym. I did not have a coach after blue belt. I did not watch instructionals. I fucking trained. I have videos of me training with my friend Jeremy Williams until 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, just straight for 3 hours, just live drilling, live training. And my game developed over trial and error. I fought, I did jiu-jitsu tournaments, I did everything. And what worked, I kept. What didn't, I didn't. And so when I took the gi off, people started calling my gym, started, you know, shit talking me, you know, as a blue belt and not wearing the gi. Then no one was going to promote me because I didn't have a gi on and I didn't have an instructor and so on and so forth. Kleber Luciano tried to fight me a handful of times. I wanted to fight this dude so bad. He's another black belt in my, he was like a half hour from me, but still like any tournaments I went to, people would talk trash on us or whatever, but we would show up and win all the time. Like all the time we were winning jiu-jitsu tournaments, matches. My blue belts would beat brown belts. My purple belts would beat black belts. Russ Mira, one of my top guys, was 40-0 in jiu-jitsu. We went to Grappler's Quest, run through black belts, as a purple. And because people were splitting time 50-50, right? They're training in the gi, they're training without the gi, they're training the gi, they're training without the gi. We only trained Nogi. So let's say you have a kid's class and your kid trains gi, and on Wednesdays they train Nogi, right? My kids never put a gi on. Do it for 2 months. Now let's go do a jiu-jitsu tournament with Nogi, right? Mm-hmm. My kid's probably going to win because your kid's doesn't have much Nogi experience at all, right? So when they kept telling me your gi will make your Nogi better, I was like, I don't understand that. It doesn't make sense because, well, it'll make it tighter. I was like, it's tighter because the gi's on. It's not tighter when the gi's off. I have to make it tighter when the gi's off. My Nogi, if it's really tight, might make my gi tighter, but it's not going to make me tighter to use all the things in gi and then take it off. I have to now have my own handles, my own grips, my own everything for Nogi. So I spent a decade working Kimuras, arm bars and Kimuras, another decade working guillotines, 10-figure guillotines, front headlock, and controlling the body without, I want like Eddie Bravo and those guys would wear those leggings in the UFC, for grip. I want to be able to control you in the 5th round when it's sweaty with no grips.
Yeah.
Right. And everyone else was the opposite. They think Nogi, because it's slippery, it's easier to escape. I'm not trying to escape. I'm trying to fucking kill you. Right. And so when you have all these things that are holding you back, you need to figure out how to be able to do it without the gi on. And so that was my 10,000 hour rule, right? Outliers, 10,000 hour rule.
I'm going to mastery. Yeah.
Yes. And I'll go on, I'm probably bad for most teachers because I do everything on one side, everything. Mm-hmm. And I've got 30,000 hours on one side. I guillotine on my left side.
Yes.
I inside heel hook your left leg, outside heel hook your right leg. I can pass both ways, but I'll windshield wipe to your right side because I'm going to attack your left arm. Everything comes off your left arm. I'm going to Kimura arm bar, everything your left arm. Arm drag, your left arm. I'll sell you hard on the other side. But if you know me, it's going to make it harder, more challenging for me because I don't want that.
Yes,
I'm going there. But I've got more hours on one arm than you do on two. And so my thing from the very beginning, bro, I had no experience. I didn't even have education. I went in this with I was street smart and logic, and I was just like, you can't tell me that I have to do this to do this. Motocross guys don't go train street bikes to get better at motocross.
Right,
they fucking train street dirt bikes, right?
Yeah. All right, go on, coach.
So my plan was to just go all in Nogi, all in on controlling people, how to figure out how to control grips and handles and everything without the gi on, with it being slippery, with it being late in a match. And then I decided, I'm going to go even further in and specify one side. I'm going to be specific on one side and just fucking become great at it. And now, so I did Nogi Worlds, Nogi Pans, 13, 14, 15, and I had 19 matches and 18 of them were won by the same Kimura grip armbar against other black belts. I'd lock it up and kind of look at one of my kids that were on the side, like, here we go again. And then, my first one was a flying armbar. The rest were in the finals. And then the rest were Kimura arm bars and then one on points. But I was so good at that. It was hard to finish my blue belts with it because they had all been done to so many times that I started getting really good at guillotines because they started stopping my thing.
Right.
But I then would grab black belts from somewhere else just like that and catch it. And still to this day, if I go teach seminars and I lock up my Kimura grip on somebody, they're just like, oh, whoa, they haven't felt that. Because I've dedicated, like I said, a decade of time to ripping your fucking left arm off.
Yeah, you're like that Bruce Lee quote. It's like that 10,000 hours with the one jab.
Yeah, right.
Or 10,000 hours, 10,000 kicks.
Right.
You know, I love that you brought that up because you often hear it's like, yeah, work both sides, work both sides.
Yeah.
But then I completely agree with you. It's like you're narrowing your focus to focus on it to get better at that one side. Now I know there's different like schools of teaching in that,
Sure.
but damn, it only makes sense.
And I tell people at seminars, I apologize to your teacher. You know, I'm all one side. I go 100% on one side, you know, because I'm sure they say do both sides.
Yeah.
I lost one arm bar once because of it. I end up in a scramble, end up on the right arm. And I was like, God, I have zero control here. I felt like maybe a blue belt on that arm and lost the arm bar. But then regained the arm on the left side.
So what makes a 18 first round submission, 95 finish rate? What makes that happen? Is it just reps? Is it drills? Like, what do you see in jiu-jitsu in particular that you're like, okay, I unlocked the code
Right.
to being, you know, some like I had Andrew Tackett over here.
Yeah.
And obviously one of the best in the world. And it's just you find openings, right?
Yeah.
What about you? What would your, I guess you could say, advice be? Or what do you see that really wins jiu-jitsu matches?
I drilled a lot. I drilled a lot, you know, hours on my stuff, and my roles are specific. I don't just roll with you. Like I've been rolling with you, but like if I'm back in the day and coming up and as I was competing, I'm rolling with you with intention. I'm trying to get your left arm. I'm trying to get your neck with my left arm. And I'm trying to get to that position the entire time. I'm passing. Passing is my favorite thing, but passing leads me to those two things. So I'm constantly passing to get to those things, and I'm not rolling in whatever happens, or whatever position you give me, cool. I'm trying to do my thing and stop you from doing your thing.
Yeah.
You know? And so it's not, I think a lot of people roll and lose position so much, or roll, even if you take a flow roll and pick it up into a full speed roll, that's what it looks like when people are going live, you know, and not really a path to anything. And for me, one thing I'll have my guys do to improve is I'll take away, like, pick a submission, and it's the only one you can do all month. Pick one submission. That's all you can do all month.
Really?
Yeah. And so let's say you pick rear naked choke. In that month of getting to the rear naked choke, you're going to find many different back takes, right? You're going to have different passes to get back takes to get the rear naked choke. And so after you've done that for a month, you'll be like, oh man, I could have had an arm bar right there, but I passed, you know, and I could have had a guillotine right there, but I passed. And I worked to get to the back. But in that time, I'm now seeing all the other routes and things I could have gotten. And now when it comes time to take the handcuffs off and you can do everything, you now have this path to the back, but then you can snag that. You know, you're so controlled in your ways to the back. You have now all the openings for the submissions you were passing on. You remember those things you were passing on because you got so comfortable doing the one thing that those stood out to you because you couldn't have them, you know, and now you can have them, and you'll improve tremendously that way.
When did you figure that out? Because the temptation when the arm is there, to get that, like, come on, man, like
a long time ago, like, you know, 15 years ago, 12 years ago. But it really is, it is a lot of temptation.
I mean, you won't play your A game, you know?
Right. And you might not, for example, what belt are you?
Purple.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say I'm rolling with you and I should submit you, right? But if my goal is to only get your back and rear naked choke you, I might pass on 5 things and get your back and the bell will ring. And you're like, I survived. I didn't get submitted by him. But really, I was just trying to get your back and choke you, right? Sure. And it might be, for me, if I have a big ego, it's like, God, I didn't catch him. You know, I didn't submit him. But it's not, like, just deal with that and know that you're learning something to get somewhere for a purpose. And it will help you so much. And, you know, so don't have the ego thinking, oh, that guy thinks I couldn't catch him because I didn't catch him. You know, who cares? You know, just keep working that thing and you will get so much better once the handcuffs come off.
So when someone teaches you something, okay, first of all, how do you learn all these moves? Is it like I know you said it was a surf learn thing. You didn't have a coach, right? Like in your blue belt days. How did you learn that? Was it just videos and then you drill it over and over?
I didn't watch videos. I didn't watch any instructional videos ever.
Yeah.
I was training at the Gracie Academy. Horian was a great teacher. Every shitty and everything else. Hoyce was a okay teacher, but he was a good fighter.
Yeah.
And I would listen to Horian teach because he taught, very well. And then Hoyce came downstairs one day and said, all right, everybody take off the gi. Take off the gi. We're going to go open hand strikes and no gi, no shirt. And I rolled up everybody. Like there was some guys that were better than me in the gi, and I rolled up everyone. And that's when I was like, oh, from that point on, I was like, I'm never putting the gi back on again unless I have to in this class, but I'm going to study how Horian teaches and learn how he's speaking to teach this stuff. Even though he's only showing basics, I'm going to take the principles that he's showing and then apply that to, better techniques. And then I would continue to teach. Anytime I'm teaching, I think teaching makes you better because you're constantly drilling it and you're saying it out loud over and over again. You're saying the details out loud. You're breaking it down out loud so it sticks in your head. And then when you go time to go live, all those details are implemented in your head. And so I think that's one of the main things that made me good is I started teaching at a blue belt level. I was teaching full-time my own gym at a blue belt level. So I was able to learn. I was able to keep taking the verbiage and whatnot that I learned and how to speak, teaching to all the higher level techniques that I was applying and learning and doing on my guys. And I made 5 guys really, really good, really fast just for my own training partners.
Right.
I had a guy, Jeremy Williams, Tracy Hess, Eric Victor. There was 4 or 5 guys. And we just trained. My first gym opened and closed in 7 months because we didn't, I opened a really nice gym as a blue belt, didn't have any experience in business, but we trained all day, all night, whether there was students or no students, we were training. And I just got these guys really good as fast as I could. And then I had great training partners, and then I continued, I went to my garage, built it up in my garage, and then opened again and took off after that.
What do you think about, so say if you were just at a regular jiu-jitsu gym, say for a purple belt like me, is it wise? Is there any one method that you do, or do you train with everyone? What's the system and structure behind a good training method?
Mm-hmm.
I know one of them, you said, it's like basics, right? In not so many words. I think I kind of just picked that up from what you were saying. But then, okay, so like Drysdale, not to go all over the place, but say Drysdale, he was saying, now we're getting to all these methodologies because you were train one side, where other people would say train both sides. And then Drysdale was like, you don't got to train with black belts, man. He said on a clip, I think I saw on Instagram, he said, I've gotten really good with training lower level, white belts and blue belts.
Yeah. You definitely can. You definitely can get good.
Yeah. What is your personal thing on that?
I mean, I think it's important to have rounds with those guys, especially if you're ever going to compete. It's just like if you train with guys that aren't good and then you go fight a guy that is good, you're only used to this, right? You've never been put through it like this guy's about to put you through it.
Yeah.
And so I think it is important to have that speed from that guy, the techniques from, defending things at a different pace than you're going to get from the guys who are lower level.
Yeah.
And so for training, I think everybody should have a handful of guys that they can run through and try all their stuff on. I think they should have a guy that they can compete with back and forth and have a really good competitive rounds. And then I think they have a guy that can put it on them that they have to defend. Mm-hmm. And what happens is these guys that you're beating, you're trying all your stuff on, you're able to now start using that stuff on this guy who's your competitor. And you're going to start beating him. And now this guy is going to be the guy who you're having competitive rounds with. And you're going to continue to cycle up off of those guys. But you should know who they are. This is a guy, you don't have to bully anybody, but this is a guy I can try all my stuff on and not worry about getting submitted, because I'm that much better than him. I can try all my new stuff or my good stuff.
Yes.
And then there's me and John, who are just great training partners, and we can battle every day and go hard. And sometimes you catch me, sometimes I catch him, or we don't catch each other.
Yeah.
And then there's coach or somebody, not coach, but somebody that's definitely better than you that you're having to defend and defend and defend. It helps you work on your defense. But then sooner or later, oh, there's some offense. You're able to start applying some of the stuff that you're working on down here on that guy. And then a short amount of time later, you and that guy are battling because he's just training with whoever. And you can kind of start battling with that guy and you kind of leave these two behind. And then you make that guy your competitive round. And this guy that you were having competitive round is now a guy that you can try all your shit on.
Yeah.
And then there's the next guy who's even better, who's going to be the guy you're playing defense with. There's kind of 3 levels of people that I think you need to train with regularly. Like even in one night, you know, you can kind of get 3 to 6 rounds in with 2 rounds of each, you know, but I think it's important to have a little bit of all of that. You can go in and if you're never put in danger, you're never threatened. You know, I used to have my guys start mounted on me, start on my back, start wherever for me to even be put in a bad position because none of them could put me in the bad position. And so that was the biggest mistake of my career, is not traveling outside to train with better guys. Like I had great guys, but I never went out for coaches, you know, for other high level guys. It was always the guys that I built. So they knew my game and I knew theirs.
Yeah.
I think it'd be important. It wasn't around as much now like it is now, but like Lucas was training probably his 8th, 5th, and we're still training at home. And he had gotten a few good hard sessions in with Bryce Mitchell because Tyler was wrestling in Little Rock and Bryce lived there. So we'd get some good rounds in. That was literally the only high level guy we had trained with.
Wow.
And then I'm watching him train one day and he's just like punching guys like this on the ground and just playing with them. And he's got a fight coming up. And I'm like freaking out. And I was like, hey, I said, we have to fucking leave here. I said, please. Like it's our gym, my own gym. And so we got to leave. We've got to go somewhere. We went home, packed, went to Glory MMA in Kansas City and was in a room full of 50 killers.
Yeah.
And as I sat there watching everyone walk in the door, I knew every single person walking in the door from TV. And I was like, this is what we need, you know?
Yeah.
And he was kind of deer in headlights for the first 2 or 3 rounds and then settled in and realized that they don't care who he is because they're all the same person. They're all that good, you know? They don't care what round you are because the next guy's just as tough as you are. And, you know, that was the game changer for us. And in the end of that, that's how we ended up at Syndicate.
It's like if you're the smartest guy in the room, then you're in the wrong room, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it seems to me what really stuck out with me, Coach, that I was really fascinated with was that you're between you and your sons, at least, and it reminds me of like Frank Mir and his daughter. Like you guys are, you know, like that MMA kind of royalty. It's like a lineage, just like the military. Yeah. It's like you go to the military, your son follows, and then you're just with talented freaks. Like I've seen, you know, I haven't obviously trained with Lucas or anything, but I see you guys like, you know, your demeanors and how you guys are like a tight-knit family and how you care for each other as far as, when it comes to MMA, you guide your kids. Yeah. But that's the same with Frank. He's been around the gym. Oh, yeah. And then he's trained, I believe her name's Bellamere.
Yeah,
and
she's
then
a stud. She's a stud.
Yeah, I mean, and you could just see I don't know. I guess you could, it's like, damn, you got legends teaching you these kids, and it really, really shows. Maybe not directly you just sparring with them or fighting with them, but then your connections, right? Your resources, and just, your knowledge of what you brought up. I mean, that's a big disadvantage. I mean, that's a big advantage.
Right.
And a big disadvantage to the people
opponent.
that are competing. Yeah.
Sure.
It's like, dude, that resource is just like priceless.
Very lucky to have both of them do it. Like it's rare, I think, that you would have something that the father does that your son ends up doing, but then so does the next son as well. You know, and we're lucky enough to all three be doing this, something that I've already gone through, you know, the highs and lows of. So I'm able to give heads up to them about, you know, what's good and what's bad, you know, and give them instruction. And everyone's like, you know, is it hard to coach your kid? Yeah. You know, not always. It's easy. I never pushed them. When they would lose jiu-jitsu tournaments or wrestling tournaments, it was rare, but when it happened, you know, I would go find them, talk to them, you know, never get on them about it. You know, we talk about it later, but like I'd have dads barking across the mat at their kid that was half my kid's age, you know, and then I've had dads message me afterwards and be like, hey, I saw you coaching your kids today. I feel embarrassed, you know, by the way I was coaching my kids. You know, how do you do that? I said, I don't push them, bro. I said, at this level, if your son is doing this and wants to do it, he surely doesn't want to lose. So if he loses, it's not on purpose, right? So there's no reason to fucking yell at him for losing because he's trying. So all that's going to do is cause a divide. My dad was a dick, when it came to sports and stuff with my other brothers and stuff, and was just a hammer on them, playing baseball and stuff. And I was just never going to be like that with them. And so I feel like if I give him space to win or lose, and then correct what went wrong on the loss or things we did wrong winning, and just continue to grow that way, it would keep them loving me later instead of hating me later. And here we are, a lot of years later, we all get along great. I still don't, I gotta kind of tailor things sometimes. Like, what do you think about trying it like this instead of, hey, try it like this, telling them what to do as a more to, what do you think about it? And if you like it, cool, let's do it that way. If you don't, cool, but it's just approach it a little bit different. They're adults, right? They're grown ass men now. So, I've never been the barking, orders at them. So I think that's probably why we've been able to be as successful as we have been at now a pretty freaking high level, and bringing Tyler in now. And we just, we were able to do it and do it together. And we've traveled all over the world together, man. Like we went to London so Lucas could win the British Nationals. Like we traveled all over the place with these guys, and it's, still happening now. 13 years later, both black belts. Tyler gets his second stripe on his black belt when we go home in December.
Damn, already?
Yeah. Crazy.
Man. Yeah. That's what I was saying, is just that you guys are like really up there when it comes to the MMA. Like you just said, man, that proves it. You just travel with them, go to different gyms and, have different training methodologies. And what's even more admirable is that it's just through behavior, right? It's not like you're walking it like you talk it. Like you're the father, they follow your behaviors. And it's a great example. Now, I know there's different ways of teaching. Like it reminds me of the Tiger Woods thing where I mean, it was pretty dysfunctional. They had a safe word, back then, I think it was like, yeah, these guys are like calling you racist. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, and then they had a safe word for him to like, I don't know, for him to stop. Like, he was calling them all these obligatory things. And then there's that methodology, right? And it kind of reminds me of the parents that are like, maybe I don't, that are vulgar towards their kids when they're doing it. I kind of get it. It's just, maybe it's the tough skin, old school kind of way of doing things. But I mean, who am I to say, right? I don't know. It's a different kind of teaching, I guess.
I've told Lucas, never even had this conversation with Tyler because we haven't got to that point, but I told Lucas multiple times that in the end, me and him loving each other and getting along is what matters to me most. I don't give a shit if he ever wins another fight. I don't care if he ever does anything else. That's what matters to me the most at the end, whether that's good or bad for his career. Could I push him harder and get him to, a higher level by being meaner? Maybe, but in the end,
yeah, but that's so
do I risk him knowing that I did that to get him there, but I did love him, or that I didn't do that and we still got there, So again, that's what matters to me most. I don't care where at this point they've already been so successful that it's, when the first couple of times he fought in Bellator, they talked about me for the first minute of the fight, and I was like, at some point, they're going to not do that anymore and they'll talk about you.
Yeah.
And it was, we finally got to a point where they weren't talking about me at the beginning of the fight. And then we got backstage for one of them, and it was a big Lucas Brennan on the board or on the locker room. And then Chris Brennan, Rafael Casillas, like the rest of his corner. And my name was the small name and his was the big name. I said, this is all I wanted the whole time. Right.
Yeah,
right. I want him to stop talking about me and start talking about him. Now, starting all over, he'll be in the UFC. I'm sure they're going to talk about me at least a little bit. His dad did this, which is, it's cool. It's fine. But I want him to get his own, flowers. He's put in all of the work, and I'm just, I'm proud of him. And
He's like his own man.
for sure.
Pretty much.
For sure.
Yeah. I think, with the going back to the parents thing, do you think it has a little bit to do with them living vicariously through their kid? Because you've been through it, so you don't have that. Right? It's kind of like, all right, well, fuck, I did all I can for the sport.
Yeah.
I've done my thing, Hall of Famer and all that. Do you think that's a big part of that? I mean,
Sure.
even just in the smallest like examples, right? So like me and Jerry Shapiro, we were talking about, parents and then their kids, they're telling Jerry how to coach, and then they're telling their kid, like, what are you doing? We'll do this, do that. It's like, come on, mate. Like, they're 5.
Yeah. I had a kid 7 or 8 years old, and he was super, super good. We flew out to California and did Kids Worlds, and I think his total matches of 3 matches lasted 47 seconds, all 3 combined. And he was very, very good, yellow belt kid. But his dad would be over the fence at my gym yelling at him every single roll. And if he didn't submit the kid, by the time there was 30 seconds left, the kid would be crying while he's attacking this other kid because he knew if he didn't submit, he was in trouble.
Yeah.
And like, that's just, it's crazy because get your ass out on the mat and let me see you do it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and I have a dad, one of my black belts now, who used to get on his kid a lot. And then he finally started training and he never got on his kid again, and then trained and went through it. But man, unless you do it, like there is a very high level wrestler that's wrestling in college right now that used to wrestle at my gym. They've gotten in trouble everywhere they went. It's a family, loud, obnoxious, great wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
Their dad was a complete asshole. One of my kids would score on him once in a while. Really good kid. And he'd go in the bathroom and get his ass whooped at my gym. And then he'd come back out and try to kill my kid.
Whoa.
Yeah. And the kid, he's a stud. He's a very good wrestler. He's a weirdo, but he's a stud. And he wrestles at the highest level. But at the end, I think this is, the dad like that. That's the one that the kids in the end are going to fucking hate that guy or end up fighting him or something. It's just, I don't ever want to be in that position with my kids. This to us is obviously it's our life and our lifestyle, but it's something that we're able to do together. And that's the cool part about it. And to get here and make money and do all this, there's only been 2 father and sons that have fought in the UFC, but never a father and 2 sons that fought in the UFC. So hopefully we get to be the first to do that.
Stats don't lie. You're going for that LeBron James stat, huh?
That's right.
Bronny going there, and then his other son Bryce.
Yeah. So, but my kids deserve to be there more than me, man. They're very good, man.
I have no doubt about that, man. So, Coach, we'll stick with jiu-jitsu because it is the popular topic.
Sure.
So, you know what stuck out to me here was now I don't feel so bad training one side. Thank you, Coach.
You're welcome.
Because I really, really do believe in that methodology. It kind of sticks out to me. Yes, you should have, it's kind of like, it reminds me because my first love is striking, right? It's kind of like, well, how often should I work on southpaw? I know it's necessary, don't get me wrong, to mix up in your game. But how often, do I have to be good at both sides? Or do I just have to have it in my toolbox? And that's kind of the way I see learning both sides. It's like, yeah, of course, I'll learn both sides, but then I just have it in my toolbox and then I'll be dominant on one side, because if I'm dominant on one side, it's like they could do whatever, but then even if they see it coming, can you do anything about it, man? Like kind of like that. So can you give me one last advice? Maybe, not so high level so people could understand it, but for people are coming up, would you suggest like what you suggested about just focusing on, say, a rear naked choke for a month straight? What's your biggest like game changer when it comes to like training?
Yeah. As someone new, I think basics are so important. It's one thing that if my kids are rolling, even in this room full of killers here, they're able to try things because you can't put them in a bad position. If you get to a bad position, they can easily get back to a safe position just because their basics are so good.
Yeah.
And that's something you can be comfortable trying new things because your basics are good. So I think it's really good to have a foundation first, and then you can kind of branch off. I think at purple belt is when you really start to have your own style, try to really kind of see what you're gonna be really good at and kind of go one way, as opposed to blue, you're just kind of learning everything, you're trying to apply everything, and then at purple, you're starting to branch out and have your own style and start attacking brown belts, you know. And so I think basics are important. I think drilling is important, and if you really, again, not everyone's me. And sorry to your coach, but if you really want to get really good at something, you're going to do it more, right? You're going to do whatever it is in your life. The more you do it, the better you're going to be at it.
Sure.
Anything.
Absolutely.
So if I attack a left arm 1,000 times, or I attack a left arm 500 or right arm 500, they'll be good, but that won't be as good as it would have been if I did it 1,000 times.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Right.
Right.
So I am definitely have mastered some things and continue to, and I continue to teach it. So I get better at it. And I even change details still now. And I'm still just as motivated now, training 32 or 33 years now, as I was at the beginning. I'm literally just as motivated now, teaching and training and developing stuff as I was at the beginning. And, you know, I think it shows when I teach, but I think it's important to drill and to, you know, continue with open mind of learning. Always learn. I hate, there's nothing worse than teaching something and then walking around the room and have dudes doing something else, you know?
Yeah.
Like, bro, get off my fucking floor.
Right,
You know?
right. They're not like focused.
They're just
their
drilling
attention's
something,
all over the place.
drilling what they want, you know, or if they've got their own Kimura, they'll drill it that way instead of the way I showed it. Why not try it my way? It's probably pretty good, you know?
Probably why you're in class, you know what I mean?
Right. So why not try it my way instead of the way you're comfortable doing it? You know, at least humor me and do it, and then go back to your way tomorrow. It sucks.
Or one of those things where a manager comes through, pretend like you're working, and then when you turn your back, then okay, yeah, you could probably
humor me.
Yeah, exactly. Well, man, I appreciate you, Coach. I mean, I've definitely learned a lot from you, and man, this conversation was a banger, man.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Let's go.